You are invited to participate in a true multimedia experience coming to a home near you. LCM TV is bringing Lake County into the new millennium with news, live broadcast, information, music, talk shows, and local programming, all streaming in high definition online and soon to be on your Roku box. Join us at lcm-tv.com or be a part of our studio audience. You can also watch the shows at lakecomagazine.com as we provide programming to inform, enlighten, and maybe even enrage you. On Lake County Magazine Talk Show with Terry and Pete the Tax Guy, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Like racing? Try the Checkered Flag Show, hosted by Ace Naylor on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. All ages and divisions in regional and national fields. Joni Lane brings a positive light to you every Monday at 3 p.m. Pasha Space brings an international flair as they discuss ecological, health, and social issues in Haiti with people around the world. End up your week with positive, conscious sounds on Saturday at 9 a.m. with Sister T on the Bridge. This show is also simulcast on KMEC 105.1 FM in Ukiah. Our latest show, LCM TV News, is brought to you live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, and rebroadcast at 6:30 p.m. and noon daily, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, featuring national, regional, and local news, weather, and sports. We have it all here for you on your local TV station, LCM TV. Join us online and soon on Roku, giving you access to all the best Lake County has to offer. We are LCMTV.com, your multimedia connection. Tune in for the fun. It's live TV at its best.
Good afternoon. Welcome to LCM TV News at noon. This is not your normal news. I'm Pete Schiffman. National news. Justice Department investigators have identified criminal wrongdoing in General Motors' failure to disclose a defect tied to the least 104 deaths and are negotiating what is expected to be a record penalty. A settlement could be reached as soon as this summer. The final number is still being negotiated, but is expected to eclipse the $1.2 billion paid last year by Toyota for concealing unintended acceleration problems in its vehicles. Former GM employees, some of whom were dismissed last year, are under investigation as well and could face criminal charges. Prosecutors and GM are also still negotiating what misconduct the company would admit to. The Republican-led Senate has blocked a House bill that would have ended the National Security Agency's bulk collection of domestic phone records. The vote was 57 to 42, short of the 60-vote threshold to move ahead. It leaves the fate of key provisions of the Patriot Act in doubt with the June 1st deadline less than 2 weeks away. The House had overwhelmingly passed the USA Freedom Act last week. The measure would authorize case-by-case searches of records held by phone companies instead of the government. A senior administration official said Saturday that the wind-down process has begun on the surveillance program and that the administration did not file an application with the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Committee on Friday to continue collecting the data. The White House has long said that the administration would not seek to continue the program if the legal authorities expired. Aspects of the program could be reactivated as allowed under new legislation if Congress acts before the deadline. The Senate will reconvene, on May 31st to try again. But any extension is far from certain to get approval from the House, which is in recess until June 1st, with at least one member threatening to block it. Internal State Department emails in the aftermath of the Benghazi terror attack show that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton received detailed information indicating the strike was planned by well-trained fighters. Yet her office continued to push the narrative days later that it began spontaneously. The messages were among 296 emails released Friday by the State Department, in the first batch of emails to be made public from Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State. Totaling 896 pages, the emails show a series of Libya dispatches Clinton received from a confidant, as well as the barrage of messages among her and her aides after September 11, 2012. Those messages depict the rapidly changing understanding of what happened at the U.S. compound that night and the administration's internal struggle to settle on a public narrative. Confidant Sidney Blumenthal's first email release shows he gave a highly detailed picture of sources said that happened that night. Initially on September 12th, he sent Clinton an email linking the attacks to anger over an anti-Islam internet video which had triggered protests across the region. But the next day, he sent Clinton an email with a very different information, saying officials believe the attackers were the Islamist militia Ansar al-Sharia. He wrote that officials thought the attackers prepared for the strike and took advantage of the cover from demonstrations over the video. Further, he cited sources saying roughly 21 fighters left from a base in East Benghazi and infiltrated the crowd and began opening fire on the U.S. consulate. Libyan officers, he wrote, said the attacks were planned for roughly 1 month. Fighters with the brigade were described as well-trained, hardened killers, many of whom had spent time in Afghanistan and Yemen. Despite the guidance, then U.S. Ambassador Susan Rice went on several television programs September 16th to claim the attacks were spontaneous and not premeditated, and linked them to protests over the anti-Islam video. John Forbes Nash Jr., the brilliant Princeton University mathematician whose life story was the subject of the film A Beautiful Mind, was killed with his wife Alicia on Saturday in a crash on the New Jersey Turnpike. Nash was 86, Alicia Nash was 82. Police said the two were in a taxi traveling southbound in the left lane of the New Jersey Turnpike when the driver of the Ford Crown Victoria lost control as he tried to pass a Chrysler in the center lane, crashing into a guardrail near Interchange 8A in Monroe Township. The couple was ejected from the car. It doesn't appear they were wearing seatbelts, he said. The taxi driver was extricated from the vehicle and flown to Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. A passenger in the Chrysler was treated for neck pain. The couple were pronounced dead at the scene. Spokesman for the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office said no charges were expected to be filed in this case. Actress and comedian Ann Mira, who famously co-starred with her husband Jerry Stiller for more than 60 years, has died at the age of 85. Ann's family, including her son Ben Stiller, released a statement on Sunday regarding her passing. They did not mention the cause of death. Mira was famous for performing on The Ed Sullivan Show in the 1960s with her husband Jerry Stiller, and also had recurring roles on All My Children and The King of Queens. She co-starred with Ben in the 2006 film Night at the Museum. The Senate Appropriations Committee did something last week the Senate has never done. It passed a marijuana reform measure. It was the narrowest of proposals, an amendment co-authored by Senator Steve Daines, a Republican from Montana, and Jeff Merkley, a Democrat from Oregon, to a military spending bill that would prohibit the Department of Veteran Affairs from using federal money to prosecute doctors who recommend medical marijuana to veterans in states where the drug is legal. The Veterans Equal Access Amendment to the 2016 budget for the Veterans Administration. This landmark amendment would end this current gag order that prevents VA doctors from recommending or even discussing medical cannabis with veterans in states where it is legal. There is now a real chance that the federal law will change and veterans who depend on the VA for health care will finally be able to discuss medical cannabis with their doctors and use it to treat serious conditions like chronic pain, PTSD, phantom limb syndrome, traumatic brain injury, and more. Last year, the House passed 5 measures that supported states' rights on marijuana, but the Senate would not budge until Thursday. 12 Democrats and 4 Republicans supported the amendment. Most amazing of all was a yes vote from Senator Dianne Feinstein. We've always had Dianne Feinstein down as a no vote. Policy maven Michael Collins of the Anti-Drug War Drug Policy Alliance told. The California Democrat had been a staunch hawk in the war on drugs. She has described marijuana as a gateway drug. She would have been the only Democrat to vote no. But Feinstein voted yes, although, Collins noted, her yes was the most muffled yes I've ever heard in my life. It wasn't that long ago, January, that Feinstein and Senator Charles Grassley, a Republican from Iowa, were urging the Obama administration to be tougher on states that legalize recreational marijuana, lest the United States be seen as flouting UN conventions. This month, she has been forced to recognize that marijuana may have medical benefits, and veterans in states that have legalized medical marijuana should have access to it. While the domestic war on drugs has been supported for nearly 4 decades by Michelle Linhart, it appears as though some of her misguided policies, mostly those rooted in Reagan's anti-reefer regime, may finally come crashing down with the recent appointment of the new leader of the Drug Enforcement Administration. Earlier last week, the Justice Department announced that Chuck Rosenberg, who serves as the Chief of Staff to the Director of the FBI, will be stepping in to replace Linhart as the Administrator of the DEA. Attorney General Loretta Lynch called Rosenberg an exceptional leader with unshakable integrity in a statement regarding his appointment, yet proponents of pot reform have been left wondering whether the change will be for better or worse. A recent report from the LA Times indicates that Rosenberg will not place a heavy emphasis on indiscretions associated with marijuana. Instead, Rosenberg, who will serve as the DEA's acting administrator until the next presidential administration takes the reins, is expected to improve the DEA's procedures on classifying, declassifying, and reclassifying drugs by focusing less on the enforcement of marijuana laws and more on the scourge of heroin and other dangerous narcotics, according to the Times. There is a relatively good chance that he will work to repair some of the damage done under Linhart's command. After all, her strongly suggested retirement, which followed the recent scandal involving DEA agents fraternizing with cartel-funded prostitutes, is likely a welcome weight off the shoulders of government officials who have struggled for years with her one-dimensional perception of the cannabis plant. Coming up next is the regional news. We should be right back.
SSS Multimedia is sending you smoke signals, providing their clients with the ultimate communication and multimedia marketing, distribution, production, and web-based services. They feature high-def video equipment and quality audio sound. SSS is your multimedia source, from graphics for business cards to television production, radio, live sound, and everything in between. SSS is sending you smoke signals. Get your message out with SSS Multimedia. For more information, call 707-701-6416 or email info@sssmultimedia.com.
Welcome back. In regional news, San Francisco's 37th annual parade, Carnival, 2-day celebration Saturday with a street fair in the Mission District full of music, dancing, vendors hawking everything from warrior merchandise to a marijuana delivery service, and food ranging from paella to mango on a stick. Crowds strolled Harrison Street from 17th to 24th Streets, stopping to shimmy to the Latin rhythms or taste some grilled corn. Sunday's parade, which started at 9:30 a.m., featured more than 50 colorful music and dance groups. Bay Area native Sheila E., drummer and songwriter, served at the parade's Grand Marshal. Her 80-year-old father, celebrated percussionist and East Bay native Pete Escovedo, performed Saturday at the festival. This year's theme, Agua Sagrada, Spanish for sacred water, was selected because it symbolizes not the basic element of life, but it serves as a reference to the current drought. The theme meshed with one of many community groups trying to raise awareness in an organization called La Mission Por Vida, which promotes clean drinking water in developing countries. Less than 24 hours after jury convicted Rodney Halbauer of raping a Nevada blackjack dealer, he was freed pending an appeal, and then authorities say drove 200 miles to the San Francisco Bay Area and raped and stabbed to death a 19-year-old woman. The teen was one of 6 young female victims of the so-called Gypsy Hill Killer, who terrorized Northern California and Reno during the 4 months in 1976. The killing stopped abruptly as soon as they started and remained a mystery for almost 40 years. Then DNA taken from cigarette butts saved from the scene of a 1976 killing led authorities to Hal Bauer's prison cell in Oregon last year. Hal Bauer was moved to a Redwood City, California jail in January when he was formally charged with 2 of the Gypsy Hill killings. He's a suspect in other 4 killings, which were all committed while Hal Bauer worked his way through a Nevada legal system. 2 psychiatrists are scheduled to appear at a hearing Thursday to discuss the results of a court-ordered mental exam to determine whether Hal Bauer is mentally fit to stand trial. It's not the first mental exam on Hal Bauer, who has spent most of the last 50 years in prison or on the lam. A 1987 psychiatric report from an Oregon court concluded that Hal Bauer was an intelligent man who suffered from a severe personality disorder. To continue with the regional news, an abalone diver died Sunday afternoon off the northern Sonoma County coast, according to a Sonoma County Sheriff's official. The man had been diving in Gersel Cove in Salt Point State Park, apparently with 2 others. At 3:30 p.m. State Park lifeguards reached the man and were conducting life-saving measures on him when the helicopter crew arrived. A sheriff's helicopter paramedic crawled down the cliff to the diver, and pilot Paul Bradley lowered medical gear on a long line to the effort, according to emergency officials. The paramedic performed CPR on the victim as they were lifted to a nearby bluff, where more attempts to revive the man were made. Brown said the man was pronounced dead at 3:46 p.m. His identity and further details weren't available Sunday afternoon, but it was revealed he was from Santa Rosa. It is the only abalone diving death this year on the Sonoma coast. The North Coast abalone season got off to a especially deadly start last month when 4 men died in Mendocino County in the span of 10 days. 3 men died April 12th, soon after getting into rough water off Casper Cove, a popular abalone site near Fort Bragg. Sporting an American flag, do-rag, and shades, Tony Jimenez used a smartphone Sunday to capture video of hundreds of motorcycles lined up in rows outside the Santa Rosa Veterans Memorial Building. The Hillsburg truck driver, who said he served with the Army during Desert Storm operations in Iraq, acknowledged feeling underappreciated on Memorial Day. But on Sunday, it was impossible to ignore Jimenez and the army of motorcycle riders who roared out of the Vets building parking lot for an event calling attention to service and sacrifice. All these bikes going through town hopefully gets people thinking there are a lot of veterans around here. This is according to Jimenez. More than 500 motorcycle riders participated in the ride, which concluded at Santa Rosa Memorial Park Cemetery and Crematory. There, the riders graced about 300 grave sites with carnations. Our hope is that when family members and former service members show up today, they will see that someone did a little bit more than what they were expecting. This is according to Ron Ogden, who is vice president of the Good Old Boys Motorcycle Club, which has organized the Veterans Ride for the past 4 years. The event is a fundraiser for 4 local organizations that serve veterans. They all looked at the same footage. One side saw a lawful police shooting of a man holding a blade, closing in on an officer. The other saw an execution of a man holding a tool, just trying to walk away. In what is believed to be Santa Clara County's first instance where video from an officer-worn body camera figured prominently in the investigation of a police shooting, the district attorney's office on Friday cleared 2 San Jose state officers in the February 21, 2014 death of a 38-year-old Antonio Guzman Lopez, just off the campus's southern edge. The findings speak for themselves, read a statement from the university released Friday. A pending civil lawsuit limits our ability to comment further at this time, but we will continue to keep all individuals affected by this incident in our thoughts. If this case is any indication, many will have to temper the idea that the cameras, gaining unprecedented traction in the wake of high-profile shootings across the country, will swiftly establish consensus about controversial police encounters. Coming up next is the local news, and we'll be right back.
The taxman's taken all my dough and left me in my sunny afternoon, and I can't sail my yacht. He's taken everything I got. All I've got's this sunny afternoon.
Manticorp Tax and Accounting can help you minimize taxation, establish a corporate presence, and save you money. Our over 25 years of experience in domestic and international taxation and incorporation services makes us the best at what we do. Your first consultation at Manticorp is always free, and our discounted rates guarantee you will not end up paying for what you don't get. Try Manticorp today. For more information, call 707-701-6416 or email info@manticorpusa.com.
Best.
In local news, there was a regional Mediacom internet outage on Friday that lasted most of the day. Reports of that internet went down around 2 a.m. in the morning, and the service was out from Lake County to Fresno due to a fiber optic line being accidentally cut. Service was restored that evening around 8 p.m. This caused much excitement as people actually had to talk to the people who lived in their houses with them. I can relate to that, folks. From the scanner, a couple was found deceased in their home in Clear Lake Oaks this weekend. There is no information from law enforcement regarding the cause of death or the identity of the couple. Also from the scanner, a vehicle collision in Lakeport resulted in a fatality on Friday night on Parkway and Lakeshore Boulevard. 2 occupants were in a black 4-door Honda that collided with a utility pole around 10 p.m. A 19-year-old female passenger, Franny Shetter, was declared deceased at Sutter Lakeside. The 20-year-old male driver was critically injured and had to be flown out to Santa Rosa Memorial. As alcohol has been determined to be a factor, he will be facing DUI charges upon his return. A child riding a bicycle was hit by a car on Highway 53 near Anderson Marsh on Sunday. The child was airlifted from the scene. There is no information available at this time as to the condition or if there were any charges against the driver. Also from the Scanner News, a missing 13-year-old autistic boy who wandered away from his family at Pine Grove Campgrounds on Bottle Rock Road Sunday night about 9 p.m. was found at the bottom of a ravine in a creek on Gordon Springs Road near Dogwood with a broken leg about 2 hours later. At Tuesday's Board of Supervisors meeting, an information item was presented by California Clean Power, a private company seeking a sole source contract from the county. This is an important change in the way electrical power is delivered to Lake County customers. You will have a choice of power supplies that will provide electrical service over the existing PG&E lines, and PG&E continues to provide all other electrical functions and charges. This is called Community Choice Aggregation and was provided by California Assembly Bill AB 117. CCA could bring the following benefits to a community: competitive, sometimes cheaper rates, consumer energy choice, environmentally friendlier electric supply, additional county revenue and programming designed for a community. While CCP says they will provide lower cost electricity, the actual contract does not state there will be any savings. It is all smoke and mirrors. Supervisor Jim Steele has asked for the public to come on to the board meeting tomorrow in Lakeport to express your interest in knowing more about this item before a decision is made. What bothered me at the meeting, and the reason that I argued not to forward this to the next meeting, said Steele, was the lack of community engagement before bringing such an item of county-wide significance to a vote. There is essentially one meeting to introduce the item, the next meeting to okay a sole source contract, and an additional meeting for a second reading. The public is urged to attend this meeting tomorrow. Lake County is pretty bad for income mobility for children in poor families. It is better than 38% of counties. Location matters enormously. If you're poor and live in the Santa Rosa area, it's better to be in Sonoma County than in Lake County or Mendocino County. These findings are from a new study by Raj Shetty and Nathaniel Hedren that has huge consequences on how we think about poverty and mobility in the United States. The pair, economists at Harvard, have long been known for their work on income mobility, but the latest findings go further. Now the researchers are no longer confined to talking about which counties merely correlate well with income mobility. New data suggests some places actually cause it. Consider Lake County. It's below average in helping poor children up the income ladder. It ranks 937th out of 2,478 counties, better than 38% of other counties. It is relatively worse for poor girls than it is for poor boys. Across the country, the research have found 5 factors associated with strong upward mobility: less segregation by income and race, lower levels of income inequality, better schools, lower rates of violent crime, and a large share of 2-parent households. In general, the effects of place are sharper for boys than for girls, and for lower income children than for rich. The broader lesson of our analysis, Mr. Shetty and Mr. Hendren writes, is that social mobility should be tackled at local level. The next meeting of the Lake County Planning Commission on Thursday, May 28th, may prove to be a busy one. Only 2 items have been placed on this agenda, and both of them could be described as big-ticket items. The first time agenda matter is slated for 9:05 a.m. and is a hearing for the final environmental impact report for the proposed Valley Oaks development in Middletown. According to a notice issued by the Community Development Department, if the Commission certifies the report, they would then consider recommending to the Lake County Board of Supervisors to rezone the 150 acres in the development to allow the construction of residential housing, senior housing, public spaces, and a commercial area that will front Highway 29. The second and last timed item for the day, scheduled for 9:45 a.m., is a proposal for the construction of a Dollar General in downtown Kelseyville. The store, if approved, will be built in the currently vacant lot on the corner of Douglas and Main Streets, which lies directly across from the Kelseyville High School. Dollar General outlets were also recently constructed and opened in Nice and Clear Lake Oaks. Another facility is planned for Middletown. On Memorial Day, today, May 25th, the flags of fallen veterans will fly and display at cemeteries throughout the Lake County. The Lake County Veterans Memorial, Avenue of Flags Association, with the help of volunteers, will install the flagpoles and mount the large flags along the avenues of county cemeteries. Avenue flags will be presented at the following cemeteries: Hartley Cemetery in Lakeport, Upper Lake Cemetery, Kelseyville Cemetery, and Lower Lake Cemetery. Installation of flagpoles and flags began at 7 a.m. Takedown of flags and flagpoles will occur at 4 p.m. In honor of Memorial Day, the Lake County Honors Team provided military honors at the following locations today. The Honors Team departed from the Bruno Shop Smart parking lot in Lakeport at 7:45 this morning. An honor ceremony was held at Middletown Ceremony at 9 a.m. A ceremony at Lake County Cemetery was held at 10:15 a.m., followed immediately by a ceremony at Lower Lake Bridge. A ceremony in Upper Lake commenced at 11:15 a.m. A ceremony at the Kelseyville Veterans Bridge was held at noon, and there will be a ceremony at Hartley Cemetery at 1:30 p.m. Lakeport's annual Memorial Day Parade salutes fallen members of the armed forces. This year's parade was filled Main Street on Saturday. The parade route traveled from Lake County Fairgrounds on Martin Street to Main Street at Martin Street and traveled north to 10th Street. Parade judging took place in front of the Lake County Museum. The Middletown Cemetery District held its Memorial Day service to honor fallen veterans on this morning at 9 a.m. on the cemetery grounds and at the Mary Hardesty Building on top of the hill for festivities and refreshments. Ceremonies included flowered wreaths made by the Middletown High School floral design class. 4-H presented the flag ceremony, and the Girl Scouts Troop 10676 helped with wreath replacement and programs. Supervisor and veteran Jim Comstock was the guest speaker and read the names of veterans buried in the Middletown Cemetery. Jose Simon 111 Tribal Chair, read the veteran names for the Middletown Rancheria Band of Pomo Indians. Linda Dial Darms was mistress of the ceremonies. The invocation was by Boris Brumfield, and benediction was given by Pastor Claudia Listman from the Middletown Community United Methodist Church. Boyd Green, retired veteran, and Bill Vann did the church calling, and Taps and the Military Funeral Honors Team of Lake County performed the 21-gun salute. They will be ushered in by Patriot Guard riders. David Neff will provide the keyboard accompanying Kathleen Escude, vocalist. Coming up next is the weather and sports. We will be right back. Welcome back. In weather, today will be sunny. The high will be near 80, with winds from the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Tonight there will be clear skies and around a low of 54. Winds from the south-southwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Tuesday will bring a mainly sunny sky with a high of 81. Wind shifting back to the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Tuesday night will bring clear skies and a low of 56. Winds back at the south-southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. On Wednesday, brings more of the same sunny skies with a high of 84. Winds return out of the south at 10 to 15 miles an hour, and there's absolutely no rain in the immediate forecast. In sports, the last obstacle between Clear Lake and its bid for an undefeated league and regular season, Middletown became just another notch in Clear Lake's gun, number 24 to be exact, as the Cardinals won 12-3 on Tuesday afternoon at West Martin Field. Clear Lake closed out its North Central League One season at 14-0, and the Cardinals take an impressive 24-0 overall mark into next week's North Coast Section Divisional IV playoffs. They'll find out who they are playing when the Division IV field is released on Sunday. Winning pitcher Jordan Chena worked out of the bases-loaded jams in each of the first 3 innings to notch his 9th win against no losses this season. He lasted 6 1/3 innings before tiring. Middletown ended up scoring twice in the bottom of the 7th, both runs charged to Chena, before Heller put out the fire. He faced 2 batters and struck out 1. Yesterday, the San Francisco Giants lost to the Colorado Rockies by a score of 11-2. Giants starter Tim Hudson, who's 2-4 on the season, remained winless in Colorado after allowing 8 runs and 6 hits in just 3 2/3 innings. Hudson is 0-3 in 10 starts at Coors Field. It is the only NL park he has not recorded a win. The Giants were held to 6 hits by Rocky pitcher Chad Bettis, who won his first game of the year. Giants third baseman Casey McGehee was designated for assignment before the game. McGehee won the NL Comeback Player of the Year award with Miami last season, but has struggled this year. McGehee has 10 days to be traded, released, or accept an assignment to AAA. Raiders owner Mark Davis and his colleagues at the NFL might have to wait a long time to hear from Oakland and Alameda County on a plan to help finance a new $900 million stadium. That's because elected officials are in no hurry to help the team close a $400 million funding gap. Partly because taxpayers in Oakland and Alameda County are still paying millions of dollars a year for the Coliseum renovations that lured the team back in the mid-1990s, and that the debt won't be paid off until 2026. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, who has said she cannot support spending a dime of public funds for a new stadium, stated that money we're paying now is a general fund money we could spend on police, parks, or libraries. Schaaf was elected last year on promises to bolster the city's public safety, and her current budget proposal for fiscal 2015 through 17 emphasizes hiring more police while mending an $18 million shortfall this year. Oakland eliminated 80 police officer jobs in 2010 during the midst of the recession, and crime surged. The city has been working to build up its police force again. Stephen Curry, the 2015 MVP, did what he does best, using his extraordinary three-point shooting to power a 40-point game, and the Warriors made it look easy against Houston, beating the Rockets 115-80 to take a 3-0 lead in the Western Conference Finals. the Warriors won the first two games by just 5 points combined. There would be no such drama in this one, with Curry leading them to a 26-point advantage in the second quarter. Curry was unstoppable, making 7 three-pointers to break the NBA record for the most threes in the playoffs in a season with 64. Bogut finished with 12 points and 12 rebounds. Green had 13 rebounds for his 9th double-double this postseason. Curry's 40 points are the most an opponent has scored against Houston in the playoffs this year. Game 4 is this evening, where the Warriors hope to sweep the series. The Oakland Athletics beat the Tampa Bay Rays 7-2 Sunday, behind Sonny Gray, who allowed 4 hits and 5 scoreless innings before leaving with a bruised right ankle. Gray, who's 5-2 on the season, was hit on the lower leg by James Looney's grounder in the 4th. Billy Burns hit the first pitch of the game into the right field seats for his first Major League home run. Mark Canha and Josh Reddick also homered as the A's won consecutive games for the second time this season. With a bold move on teammate Juan Pablo Montoya became a 2-time Indianapolis 500 winner. With 3 laps to go, Montoya made a pass on the outside of teammate Will Power going into turn 1 and made it stick. Montoya then held on to win his second career Indy 500, having also won in 2000 as a rookie. Montoya then left IndyCar racing to experiment in NASCAR. With Sunday's win, his decision to return looks like a wise one. Montoya, Power, and Scott Dixon traded the top 3 spots several times in a wild final 15 laps of the race. Power finished second, Charlie Kimball third, and Dixon faded to the 4th at the end. Graham Rahal finished 5th. Now for our final word. For many people, 13 children would be more than enough. But for Annegret Ronick, the 65-year-old German grandmother recently gave birth to quadruplets, making her the oldest woman ever to do so. The new arrivals increased her progeny to a total of 17 children. And let's not forget her 7 grandchildren. Ronick, a single mother, gave birth last week to 3 boys and 1 girl after pregnancy of just under 26 weeks. The newborns were delivered by C-section and are being kept in incubators for premature babies. Ronick, a teacher from Berlin, made headlines 10 years ago when at the age of 55, she gave birth to a daughter. And it was apparently that daughter's plea for a younger sibling that encouraged her mother to try again. I find my life with children great, Ronick said earlier this year. You constantly have to live up to new challenges, and that probably also keeps you young. To become pregnant, she used vitro fertilization treatment with donated eggs that were fertilized. One doctor tried to persuade her to abort 1 or 2 of these fetuses, but she refused to consider it. Ronick, who had her first child at 21, is still not the oldest woman to give birth. That record is held by Raho Devi Lohan, an Indian woman who at 70 became the world's oldest known first-time mother after 3 rounds of IVF. Her daughter will turn 7 later this year. Thanks for joining us, folks. LCM TV News can be seen Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon live here at lcm-tv.com and anytime on the 2015 archive page at lakecomagazine.com. A Positive Life is next at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And don't forget to check out Lake County Magazine for all your local news and information daily at lakecomagazine.com. I'm Pete Schiffman. And sorry. And I'm out of here. It's Memorial Day. You guys have a great day, and I'm out of here. It's barbecue time. Have a great day, folks.